So, Sight and Sound magazine's once in a decade film poll of the greatest films of all time. It's a critics and directors poll. It has been released roughly 2 weeks ago. And of course, this is a massive film event in the film community because it's such an oftentimes cited poll. We can see it over here on this website, and it is a very interesting, you could say, handbook for beginners in cinema to kind of, start to see which movies they might want to watch if they're interested in the art form. However, there's one very interesting issue, you could argue, with this poll format, and it is the fact that it restricts critics to only 10 films. So every critic has exactly 10 votes, which seems a bit ridiculous considering that there are a lot of movies in cinema history, and those film critics have seen a lot more movies than the average person. I mean, it's their job. They've seen thousands, if not tens of thousands of films, and it is incredibly difficult to narrow down to 10 films. And it could be argued that it is kind of a bit ridiculous too, because doesn't the poll kind of lose its meaning a bit if film critics have to narrow down so much? I've read a lot of the comments from the film critics from the 2012 poll, which was last decade's poll. So every film critic is allowed to kind of give a comment, and they're publicly available, and I basically read a lot of them, and a lot of them said, oh, I wish I could vote for a few more films, and they oftentimes said maybe 20 or 25, and they gave the reasoning that obviously that a lot more movies have been made since 1952, which was when the poll first started. Now that is a perfectly logical reasoning. However, it could also be argued that considering that they have seen so many movies, shouldn't they maybe be able to vote for maybe 100 films or 200 films? So this here is a very interesting perspective that I actually didn't think of before, but it has been proposed by Letterboxd user HelenWelonmelon's, who created this Letterboxd poll called the Top 250 Favorite Film Lists. And basically they explain it over here, they gave a description, and feel free to read through this. It is an incredibly interesting project in my opinion, because I am not aware of any other poll, film poll, that kind of allows such a big ballot size. But isn't this kind of something that we should maybe give a try? Because, of course, again, voters for these kind of polls have seen thousands of movies, so that may actually be a sensible thing to do. And it will be very interesting to see whether such a poll, whether the films that are on this list are going to be different from the usual suspects on the Sight and Sound poll, or the Letterboxd Top 250, or the IMDb Top 250. So that will certainly be very interesting to kind of see. The good news is that anyone can actually participate in this Letterboxd film poll, as long as they are cinephile. That's kind of an informal restriction here, and I would assume that you are, considering you're watching this video and you still haven't left. And also, if someone goes through the effort of creating a top 250 favorite film list, then they probably are cinephiles, let's be honest. And that is one of the points that Letterboxd user HelenWelonmelon's actually makes, because this film poll will organically attract those people who are actual cinephiles, because the ballot size is so big, meaning that they are more likely to actually respond because they care more about the art form and they've seen more movies. In order to participate, just create your own Letterboxd list of your top 250 favorite movies and post them in the comments of this poll. I will leave a link to the poll in the description box of this video, and it would be really interesting to see what favorite lists you've come up with. At this point in time, almost 200 people have already submitted their ballot, and the deadline is the end of the year, so there's only less than 20 days remaining. So, if you are interested in participating, that's the deadline. However, the good news is that the user HelenWelonmelon's has already announced that next year they're going to repeat this poll and actually expand the ballot size to 500 films. So just as an example, this year is my top 250, so it has a lot of different movies that I've just seen throughout my lifetime that I really liked. Just now, I'll just quickly go through how I created my list, because it can be very tedious to kind of come up with this top 250 films. That can be very time consuming. I found a little trick that made it extremely quick to come up with this top 250 film poll, and the downside is you kind of have to be a Letterboxd patron user, so that costs a bit of money. But if you are a Letterboxd patron user, then this is an incredibly efficient way to create your own top 250 films. Basically, go to this list by Hershey called All the Movies. This is a list with a lot of movies, and it's basically ranked by average rating. Then you can go all the way up here, and you can rank it instead by your rating and highest first. So this first page is going to display your top 100 highest rated films. So for me, that is mainly 10 out of 10s and 9 out of 10s. What you can then do is basically press this button that says add all films to a list. And again, that is the patron only feature, but like if you are a patron, this is going to be incredibly helpful. So you can press this button, and then I'll just create a new private list, and I'll call it test. So here we have all of the films that were on that page. These are my 100 highest rated films, and then I just press save, and then I just kind of go back onto the list all the movies by Hershey, and then I go to the next page. Again, this is ranked by my average rating, and then I can press add all films to list again, and this time I'm going to go to this test list which I've just created. And there we go, now we've got 200 movies. And of course, the problem kind of is, once you get to that third bunch, you're going to have 300 movies in the list, and then you'll kind of have to sort. And also, of course, let's say you have movies that have 10 out of 10 on this list, 9 out of 10s, and maybe 8 out of 10s, so that was the case with me. I think I just about scratched 7 out of 10s. Like, it might be picking, it chooses at random which are the highest rated within one of those ratings. So, of course, you'll kind of have to adjust it and manually actually change it up a bit. It doesn't do everything for you. And also another problem is that very obscure movies are not in this all the movies list. And that is actually a problem that I came across, because I basically forgot a couple of movies which I really like, which are incredibly obscure. But but this helped me, and this basically allowed me to create my list in a couple of minutes. And if you're interested in participating in this poll, and if in case you happen to be a Patreon user, I can recommend this method to basically make it very easy. I'm interested, what are your thoughts on this kind of a film poll? That's a large ballot compared to all other film polls. I think it is an incredibly intriguing project, as I said, and feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, thank you for watching again, and I'll see you next time.